In this video, I'm going to discuss how to develop a clutch mindset in sports. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw. I'm a performance coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. Now, what does it mean to be a clutch athlete? It means that you can come up big in these crunch time moments, these moments of pressure. But sometimes it can be difficult because of overthinking. Maybe you overthink what's going to happen or what you need to be able to do. Maybe there's fear present where you are afraid of messing up because it is such a big moment. And maybe there's anxiety present because you are anxious about what will happen as a result of this play or this situation within the game. Any of those mental game challenges or frames of thought, overthinking, fear of failure, performance anxiety, self-doubt, anything that you might be experiencing in that moment works against you being a clutch player. And when those sorts of mental game challenges take over, that's when athletes become, quote unquote, choking players. But the truth is, it's not about being a clutch player or being a choking player. It's about having the mental skills to focus in that moment and to be able to compete just like it were any other moment during the game. In other words, you just want to be present, you want to be focused, and you want to be able to give your best effort in those moments when there is pressure and it's a big moment within the game. Now, when I'm working with athletes in one-on-one coaching and we're trying to become more clutch, we don't focus on the result of those situations. Mainly because when we focus on the result of those situations, that's where we see this anxiety form, and that's where we see this fear of failure form. What we want to focus on instead is the mental state that they're in whenever they are in those big time moments. The reason we focus on the mental state is because 9 times out of 10, it's something mental that either causes you to choke or it's something mental that helps you become a clutch player. Because if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety in a crunch time moment, so then you try to force yourself to succeed, right? You try to force it. You try to control that outcome. You're going to be performing with too much tension, and you're not going to be performing freely at that moment. So then what ends up happening is, you tense up, you try to force, and then you just don't perform your best, and so maybe you end up underperforming, and now you're considered a choking player because you didn't play up to your potential in that moment. So we want to make sure that you have the right mindset in place. And so that's what I want to go over right now. I want to go over 3 tips that you can use to develop a clutch mindset. Now, the first tip is that you want to make sure you are using proactive confidence. So what does that mean? What does proactive confidence mean? Well, proactive confidence means that we aren't waiting until that big time moment in order to try to get ourselves to feel confident. We're understanding that confidence in ourselves as an athlete is a skill. It's something that we need to be working on ahead of time. We need to be putting in work every single day to build our confidence. We need to make sure that leading up to this one game, we've been doing everything we can to develop confidence and trust in ourselves. From this point forward, you can work on developing proactive confidence by putting in steps and using tools to start developing your confidence as we move forward. The reason that this helps so much when it comes to being a clutch player is because you have to trust that you can execute in that moment. If you trust that you can execute in that moment, what ends up happening is you relax into the moment. And one of the key principles of being a clutch player is being able to be present. Whenever we're in these big time moments, it's natural for us to start thinking about the result of that moment, because the reason that it feels like a bigger moment is because we know that the result is more important, right? So let's say it's a big free throw at the end of the game and the game is tied. Well, the result of this free throw could determine the result of the game. It's natural then to think about the result of the free throw. But the more you think about that, the more the pressure builds. The more the pressure builds, the more you try to force this shot, the more you're taken out of your natural rhythm, the more you're not shooting naturally and freely. And so then maybe the less confident you shoot. But if you have trust in yourself that you can execute this shot, or whatever it ends up being for you within your sport, if you have trust in yourself at that moment, if you have confidence in yourself at that moment, it's easier to just relax into the moment and execute what you need to execute. So we want to work on proactive confidence. Now, how do you do that as an athlete? Well, proactive confidence is built on 2 things. It's built on the memory of success, so seeing yourself having succeeded, and it's built on your thinking, so the way you're talking to yourself. The memory of success is built by reflecting on your wins, right? Reflecting on the things you do well. So after every single practice and every single game, you have to make sure that you are giving adequate attention to what you did well. A lot of the athletes I work with, and most of the athletes that I talk to, they end up spending more time reflecting on the mistakes they made. Now, this is very natural, especially when you're wanting to improve because you focus on the mistakes, you think about them, and you tell yourself, okay, well, I need to get better at that. I can't believe I did that. I shouldn't do that again. That's great if we're doing so in a very helpful and productive way. But when we're wanting to build confidence, it's incredibly important that we are giving attention to what we do well. We have to reflect on our successes, no matter how small they may be, whether it's from practice or games, because the most important thing for you moving forward is that you are building this confidence. Something else you can do to build that memory of success is to perform visualization, where instead of imagining or instead of remembering what you've done well recently, you start to visualize what you will do well in the future. That's going to help you build that confidence. And then with the thinking part, our confidence really just comes down to the beliefs that we hold about ourselves as players. And our beliefs are just thoughts that have stuck around. So if we want to develop new beliefs, we have to start thinking in a new way. We have to start thinking in the way that aligns with those beliefs and that we know will then build and develop those beliefs that we want. This doesn't mean that you are lying to yourself, and it doesn't mean that we're just, trying to say, oh, if I have positive thinking, everything will be okay. It's understanding that our brains work off of repetition, and if we want to develop a belief, which the belief is, I can perform well in crunch time moments, I'm a clutch player, I have trust in myself and my skills, if we want to develop those beliefs, we have to think in a way that works on building and developing those beliefs. So you need to be telling yourself things like, I know I'm a great player, I believe in myself, I have been playing well recently, I am getting better, I know I can perform well in that big moment. You have to feed yourself those confident thoughts, and that will develop that belief. And if you do all that, right, if you're reflecting on your successes, if you're visualizing success, and then if you're focusing on having more confident thinking, that's going to work on building this proactive confidence moving forward, and that helps you become more of a clutch player. The second tip is to be prepared. This goes along the same lines as being confident, because you want to make sure that you can relax into the moment and just play. It's very difficult to relax into the moment and to have confidence if you haven't prepared as much as possible. So you need to make sure that you have prepared for this moment. So what does that preparation look like? Well, of course, it looks like your natural training that you're doing. Maybe you can do a little bit more for rest and recovery. Maybe you could do a little bit more for mental training or mental preparation, which is kind of what I was just talking about with that proactive confidence. Because if you're doing a visualization routine, if you are reflecting on your wins, if you're paying attention to your thinking, that's a form of mental preparation. But you can also go into mental preparation where you're studying for your opponent, or you are mentally rehearsing specific situations, such as these crunch time moments. But we can also be prepared for these clutch moments by trying to practice them more in practice, or like with that visualization, like I was just saying. You want to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for these moments. Now, depending on your sport, that preparation will look different. But for example, I work with a lot of baseball and softball players, and a very common crunch time moment for them is that they are up to bat late in the game and they need to get a hit to help their team win, or to at least tie the game. And so something that I suggest they do in terms of preparation is, number one, make sure they're doing everything they need to do throughout the week to fine-tune their skills, fine-tune their mechanics, and build that confidence in their swing. But also make sure that when they're taking batting practice, they're simulating these moments, right? They're trying to put that pressure on themselves during practice so that they can then just practice relaxing into the moment. Now, we know it's never going to be the same, right? There's no way for us to simulate the emotions and the feelings that you have in those actual clutch moments. But you can try to get yourself as close as possible. You can at the end of batting practice, you can make sure that hey, this is the one pitch I get. I have to really focus in for this pitch. This is the last one that I'm going to get. I don't get any more pitches. You can do things like that for yourself. Same thing if you're a basketball, soccer, football player, whatever sport you play. If you can try to simulate these moments, that also helps you be prepared. But whatever preparation looks like for you, the more prepared you are, the more confident you will be. The more confident you will be, the more you can relax into that moment and just play, which is something we really have to do to be more clutch players. And then the third tip that I have for you is you want to let go and play freely. Now, what I mean by this is, instead of trying to control the outcome of that moment, and so as strange as it sounds, instead of trying to be a clutch player, you want to just let go of that result and relax into the moment that you're in. Just try to do whatever it is that you're doing to the best of your abilities, and we're going to allow this result to be whatever it'll be. The reason that we're trying to take this approach is because if we think back to what keeps you from being a clutch player, so what causes you to choke in these big moments, we're going to see overthinking, right? So you're trying to overthink your mechanics or overthink the situation. We're going to see fear, where you are afraid of making mistakes, or we're going to see anxiety or doubt, where you're worried or you're doubting as to whether or not you could do this. Now, when we look at all of those, the one thing we see is we see you so focused and so concerned with the result of whatever it is that's about to happen. And as I said earlier, that makes complete sense because this is a very big and a very important moment. But if we know that that's naturally what you'll think about, we have to work against that. The way we work against that is saying, all right, I'm going to try to let that go. I'm just going to try to relax into this moment and to perform into this moment. And the way we do that, right, in a more actionable way, is trying to keep things simple with our attention. This can be as simple as focusing on your breathing and trying to be mindful in this moment. It could be as simple as focusing on one simple, controllable objective in that moment. But to let go means we are letting go of the result. To let go of the result, we need to redirect our attention. To redirect our attention, we need to give ourselves something in the moment to focus on. That thing needs to be something controllable, such as your breathing, a piece of your technique. Maybe it's a mantra that you repeat to yourself. But that's going to help you let go and perform freely in these moments. When you want to be a clutch player, you have to remind yourself that the act of what you're doing, right, the thing that you're trying to do is no different than what you've done in practice. And it's no different than what you've done in the game up to that point. What causes us to underperform in these moments is when we see this moment as, so much more important. So then we try to force, we try to press, and then that leads to tension or timid play because maybe we are afraid of making mistakes, and that leads to the underperforming. If you can work on having confidence in these moments by building proactive confidence, right? Work on that confidence ahead of time. If you can be prepared, which again feeds into that confidence. And then if you can just let go and play freely by centering your attention in the present moment, whether that's by being mindful of your breath or whether that's by focusing on a controllable objective, all of that will help you just be present so that you can perform your best, perform naturally, perform freely, which that then results in you being considered a clutch player. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching or any of the sports psychology programs I have available, I put links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.